So, have you ever heard of the expression that there are some people who can dig into too much fear porn? Fear porn is when a person goes down through so many rabbit holes that they point to everything in the world as if it's bad or wrong. They look over here and they're like, oh my gosh, the elites are over here. And over here is the Rothschilds. And over here is this family of bloodline and this child sacrifice. And that's what fear porn is. Fear porn is when you go down too many rabbit holes. Well, I had a friend of mine who went down a rabbit hole or so, and he claims the conspiracy theory that the Nag Hammadi library and the Dead Sea Scrolls must be fake or planted by the Rothschilds and all of their elite friends because they were unearthed around 1946. And I'm here to tell you that that's not exactly possible, because the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Gnostic Nag Hammadi library weren't originally dug up just in 1946. Those are the secondary times that we discovered things, and I'm going to introduce you in this video to the Oxyrhynchus discoveries that happened almost a century before the Nag Hammadi library was unearthed. And if you're new to my channel, my name's Lenny. I'm just a mom. I research things. And I don't have a YouTube channel that's entirely structured. You know, it's not me on camera kind of talking like I'm a celebrity or something. I'm not like, hey, welcome to my channel, you know. But I will show you research. And I do have a Patreon where I put a lot of my in-depth research. So if you're interested in learning about Gnosticism, so am I. And that's what I post here. All right, with that being said, let's get into it. So, what is the Oxyrhynchus papyri? The Oxyrhynchus papyri got discovered. These are groups of manuscripts and sales and taxes and receipts of people's houses that were discovered in and around the 1800s. Late 1800s, early 1900s, like 1896 to 1903. At the time frame when you could still take your mustache and curl it around with your finger. At the time when archaeological excavations were a little bit harder to do because we didn't have the technological advances that we have nowadays. But hey, a discovery is a discovery. And this even happened before the days of the good old Titanic sinking. Now that's a conspiracy theory. They say with the Titanic that all the bad guys in the world, those bad elites, they wanted to take out their competition. So they put the aristocrats on a big boat and they sank the boat, and all the good guys went down with the boat. Well, rest assured, this discovery happened before the Titanic sank, so there must have been some still good competition for the bad elites out there. You know, when people think that there are bad guys in the world, and yes, there are a lot of elites, and yes, the Rothschilds and all of those people do exist, they do also forget that there are good guys in the world. There are good elites out there. God definitely wins in the end of this story. And this is one such fascinating story where there was a lot of good people who helped unearth a lot of useful information. Now, in excavations that happen, like archaeological discoveries, there's like very few times in history that we dig up the good ones, like the mother lode. Like we've got books of the Bible, this, that, and the other thing. What we usually find are pieces of pottery, or in the Oxyrhynchus case, it was pieces of tax assessments, petitions, court records, sales, leases, wills, bills, horoscopes, private letters, just stuff from citizens. But there were citizens who also had their hands on a lot of books. And in this particular discovery in Oxyrhynchus by Egypt, there was a lot of Old Testament, New Testament, Gnostic testaments, and Coptic scripts that were discovered, even hieroglyphic documents that were discovered in this, and even stuff written by the Greeks. Now, the Oxyrhynchus situation, the excavations took place after 1896 up to 1903. They dug for quite some time, and they found, as an example, here's a good way to put it. They found Euclid's Elements, so they found fragments of mathematics. They found poetry, Pindar, Sappho, Alcaeus. They found Christian texts like the Gnostic text, the Gospel of Thomas. So for those of you who think that the Gnostic texts were just discovered in 1946 in the Naghammadi library, no, we discovered those already. The Apocalypse of Baruch was discovered in the Oxyrhynchus papyrus, in the excavations at Oxyrhynchus. The book of Matthew was found. The book of Mark was found. Books and testaments like the work of Irenaeus was found. What they discovered was like way more than just a library. Like, it was a cool library because they had in this pile, in this discovery, they found the books that were for Gnosticism and the works of Irenaeus that were against Gnosticism. What a bonus, right? They found the Old Testament Septuagint versions of the Sinaiticus, Alexandrinus, and Vaticanus. They found Genesis, Psalms, Exodus, Joshua, Leviticus, Psalms again, Job. The book of Esther was even found here. And fun fact, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, they never discovered Esther. They found almost the entire Old Testament in Hebrew in the Masoretic text and the Dead Sea Scrolls, but they did not discover the book of Esther there. But they did 100 years before that in the Oxyrhynchus papyrus. And see, that's what makes the Dead Sea Scrolls fascinating, and why a lot of people focus on the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Nag Hammadi scripts. Not because they were the first time we discovered these books, but because the more times we rediscover them, the more locations we find these books in, that means there was more people who had their hands on them. And the more people who have their hands on these books and the different locations they get discovered in, then the more telling it is that these books were widespread. That's why the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Nag Hammadi texts are important. Not because they were the first time we found heretical books. Not just because they were some of the older translations, but because we've rediscovered them at different locations, which means they were widespread. Okay, so we also found the second Esdras, Apocalypse of Baruch I mentioned, the book of Tobit, Ecclesiastes. We got First Enoch. Lots of people think that Enoch was just found in the Dead Sea Scrolls or in the Ethiopian canonical Bibles. Nope, we found Enoch also in the Oxyrhynchus excavations. And Philo of Alexandria's documents were also found there, which, if you don't know, Philo of Alexandria was pretty good at promoting Gnosticism. Okay, so the New Testament, we found Matthew, Mark, John, Romans, Hebrews, Revelations, Corinthians, right? Like, these are fascinating things to look at. They are housed in museums like the British Library, the Ashmolean Museum, Sackler's Library. In fact, a friend of mine went to, I think it was Scotland the other week, and she sent me a telegram because in one of the museums she went to, there was the scrolls. Some of the fragments had been put in the museum she's at. She thought of me instantly. Knowing that I'm an avid lover of Gnosticism and research, she texted them to me right away. Which brings me to my next point. Not only can you look into some of the discoveries that are way older than the Dead Sea Scrolls, but you can easily type into Google things like, type the words photographs or scans of Coptic scripts. And you'll be able to find them. You'll be able to find a lot of them. And then you can compare them on your own, right? You can look at these and dig into them the way that you need to, like at the Morgan Library or the University of Southern Florida or wherever you want to go, or the British Museum. And another really good one to do, if you don't want to type into Google photographs and scans of Coptic scripts, then you can type in the words catalogs of Coptic scripts at museums, and you might end up coming to things like this: internet archives from like the 1800s of the catalogs of certain museums of what Coptic manuscripts they actually have. Let me just kind of open this up here to give you an example. Because when you go through catalogs, you're going to find way more, guys. Way more than just the Nag Hammadi library. Like, check out the catalogs of the British Museum here of Coptic manuscripts. This, for instance, was published in 1905. 600 pages of their catalogs that they had up to that point. You're going to find all of the Sanhedrin texts, right? All of the Coptic manuscripts, the Egyptian manuscripts. And when you go through these kind of things, you get the names of them, so that now you can go to, the good old Google and type them in, like this one. Did you know that there was a song called the Song of Hannah or the Song of Moses? Well, you do now because you looked in a catalog. And now you can go to Google and you can type in Song of Hannah. Again, looking in a catalog like this, and you're going to discover so much. That's actually how I discovered a lot of what was going on the Dead Sea Scrolls, was by looking at the catalogs in the reference section. And I posted about this in another book, or another video on YouTube, but I'm going to say it again here. That if you ever need to go to the, to see what was in the Dead Sea Scrolls, then type in Dead Sea Scrolls Study Edition PDF. Bring that up. It's in the archive as well. Open that up. It's a good 1,300 pages of everything through the Brill Society about the Dead Sea Scrolls. And then as soon as it loads here, go to the reference section. Look at this. Go to the reference section at the very end of the documents, the index of manuscripts, and look at some of the titles. The Apocryphon of Jeremiah, Pseudo-Ezekiel. Have you ever heard of the Apocryphon of Jeremiah? Have you ever heard of Pseudo-Moses? I haven't, but now you have. And now what can you do? Now you can go into Google and you can search it. Let me show you one that I found here that blew my mind away. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, let me see. What was it called? I'm thinking off the top of my head. It's called the Maskill's Exhortation to the Sons of the Dawn. And I believe it's Qumran script 4Q298. So I need to go up to the 200. See how it's numbered? In the Dead Sea Scrolls, they number it 4Q whatever. So I need to go to 298. Was it 298? Let me see. Right here. Words of the Maskil to all the sons of the dawn. Did you know that there was a text that was called Words of the Maskil to all the sons of the dawn? I didn't until I looked into the catalog reference section. Do you know what the sons of the dawn are? Have you ever seen Isaiah where it talks about Lucifer? Everyone says the Latin translation is Lucifer, or the Latin translation comes from light bearer. The original Hebrew is son of the dawn. It says, how will you, son of the dawn, how you were cast down from the heavens? And in that text in Isaiah, it tells you that there is one son of the dawn. But in this Qumran scroll, it tells you that the Maskil, which is the translated word for master, he went and spoke to all of the sons of the dawn, that there were multiple sons of the dawn. Now, you definitely don't hear about that in popular, television and TV and Hollywood. 4Q, the Book of the Mysteries. Guys, catalogs, scans, and photographs, they are your friends. I hope this helps you to understand a little bit that you have a really wide way of understanding so much more than just the Dead Sea Scrolls and so much more than just the Nag Hammadi library. But when you discover these kind of things, you're also going to discover why the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Nag Hammadi library are actually valid in their discoveries. They weren't just planted there by the Rothschilds, okay? They weren't just discovered in 1946. A lot of these things, like those found in the Oxyrhynchus excavations, were discovered a long time before that. And so I guess this is going to be a video for you that's just kind of a list of new places that you can look into, new adventures that you can have in the world of Gnosticism just by looking through the reference section. All right, guys, take care.